Hey everyone, welcome to the Theme Workshop. In this video, I want to discuss two major elements of the Community Theme Creator, and that's the text element and the image element. I've got chapters below if you want to skim through this, so let's get started. Let's start with the text element. Now, to add any elements to your view, there's always at least one group added, the mandatory UI elements group, and you can click the button right here at the top to bring down this drop down that will allow you to add any element into your canvas. So in this case, we're going to find the text element, and there it is. It instantly adds the element to the canvas, but you'll see that there's nothing on it because we haven't told it what we want to display in this text element. You can resize it and place it anywhere that you want on the canvas, but before anything will appear, let's take a look at the properties panel. In the properties panel, you'll see that there's a bunch of different sections to it, all separated by these headers. They all look like cards. We've got the layout section, the alignment section, the foreground section, and so forth. A lot of these are universal sections that you'll see in all of your elements, but there'll always be at least one that's very specific to this one element. In this case, it's the text section. The text section has a lot of things you can do with your text, but let's focus on the first option here. Either your text can be a constant value, which allows you to type anything into the constant value field. In this case, let's type hello world. And you'll see it appear right in the top left-hand side. It's very tiny. Let's just raise that font size a bit. Whereas the metadata value will allow you to choose from any number of text metadata that could be in a user's library. So in this case, if I switch to the metadata value, it's going to bring me the metadata dropdown. And if I look at that, it's got a long list of items that I can choose. Now, the items could be view specific. So in this case, we're on a games view, and we're going to see all of the game specific metadata. If you're on a platform view, you would see the platform specific metadata for these text element. So let's just go with, let's say, game. So you can see that it's displaying the game that I've selected before I entered into our view, and that's Adventure Island 2. And then we have the fallback value here. Now, the fallback value is basically saying if there is no value in a user's library, what do you want to display in this case? It's not that useful for a game metadata because you have to have a game name, but let's say you were looking at genre, and you just so happens that a user doesn't have the genre, in this case it's platform. If their genre field doesn't exist any value, then you can just be say something like unknown genre, something like that, so that there's always something that does appear even if the value is blank in the user's library. And down here we've got next text format. Now this is useful if you're wanting to change the format of the text. In this case, I can change everything to uppercase if I wanted to, so that if I have a specific style in your theme, that you can then change the text format to match. The font's what's really great about this is that it's going to read all of the fonts that are installed on your computer and then just display it in a drop-down for you to select, and it'll essentially just take care of the rest. So I could switch to let's say this font here, maybe I like. And of course, I already talked about the font size, and I can change anything that I want here. Let's switch back to game here, and you'll see that I've decided, let's say, that I want the title to take up this space, but I want it to be maybe this size. But what you'll notice is that I have the text way too large for some games. Some games might be small enough to fit into the space that I have provided. Some text might not. So in order to combat that, you would go to either trimming or wrapping section. And the trimming or wrapping section allows you to deal with the text in certain circumstances. Let's focus on the trimming for now. The trimming allows you to say, okay, I've got the space provided, but I want to indicate to the user that there was more to this game title than what actually appears here. So it's not Adventure Island, it's Adventure Island something. And so I can just say, okay, I want you to trim it based on the character. So it's going to eliminate some of the characters that exist and then put dots indicating, okay, this title is longer than what is being displayed here. Or you can change this to word ellipsis, which essentially deletes the word that's not displayed in its entirety and then puts the dot over on the last word that's available that everyone can see. But let's say you don't want to just trim the text, you want to actually display everything. Well, if you have the space for that, then that's what you would use wrapping for. So I can either use wrap or wrap with overflow, and it will then just wrap the words around until it's done. In this case, Adventure Island 2, I'm pretty happy with that. And of course, if you wanted to control exactly where or which direction that it'll wrap, or whether you want it centered or not, you can use a combination of using this alignment. So if, let's say I wanted it centered, but I wanted it to wrap, let's say, upwards instead of wrapping down, I would then use the alignment area to say align to the bottom, and now it's going to start at the bottom and wrap up. The last thing that we want to look at here is the foreground area. So the foreground area of at least this text element allows you to control the color of it. And we can do this through controlling the color. The color can be solid, so you can change to basically any color here and it will adhere to that. The color could be a gradient, either a linear or radial gradient. And whichever one that you choose, you've got this nice handy menu here that allows you to change the start point and the end point of that gradient. So I can either manually place something or say, okay, let's put this in the top right hand corner, let's put this in the bottom right hand corner by right clicking any of these start or end points. And then down here I can add, I've got 2 points to begin with that I can move around, but I can also click anywhere here and add more points, which then I can control what color I want there. So I could add a blue color, I can add a yellow color, I can add a red color. And then here you can control the alpha or put manual colors if you want. You can dump the hex number or the RGB color value numbers. And then if I press OK, it'll be reflective. So I can have pretty dynamic looking text if I really wanted to, using the foreground element or the foreground property in this case. Before we move on to the image element, there's one final tip I want to give you. If you were sitting here and looking through this metadata drop down for the release date, know that it's not actually part of the text element. So if you wanted to display the release date, it has its own element. So you would just click here and you would click on release date, and that would bring down a very similar element, except for one extra property here called format, which allows you to determine the style or the format of your release date that you want. You can do it just by year, month, year. You can do it by different kinds of formats that are very regional around the world. It's up to you. Let's get rid of this and let's move on to the image element. Now, much like the text element, it's available just like this in the dropdown. Let's add it. It's going to add it as image 1. It also has the ability to add either a static image or a metadata image, and it's just exactly how it sounds. When you add it, there's not really much that you can do here. There's no image that you've assigned to it. So we're going to go here and look at this media section now that it's been replaced by the text section of the text element, and see what we got here. You can see that you have 4 different kinds of images that you can display and play around with. We're only going to cover the top 2 here. I might cover the bottom 2 in future videos so that you can understand what they are. but most people, I think, would be good enough with these top two. Now, the first one is just your static image, a media image. What it's going to do is it's going to try to look inside of your media folder for another folder. In this case, hey, I don't have a folder in there. And then it's going to try to look for a file name, which, I don't have a folder or any files. How do I combat this? Well, that's what this media folder browse button's for. So you would click this browse button and it's going to open the location of your media folder and it's going to display it for you. Now, in this use case, we're just going to ignore the custom image assets. That's for a different part of the Community Theme Creator. And you can see that we have no folders in there. So let's create one. Let's just create one. We'll call it theme. There it is. And when we click it, we're going to place an image in there. Now, as of Community Theme Creator 2.3, you're allowed to use JPEGs, PNGs, and bitmaps, I believe. So those are the three file types that it'll accept and read and be able to publish into the big box. In this case, I do have one downloaded. Let's take a look. I've got one. Let's use this playtime one. So we'll bring it over here. And there's our playtime image. And let's see if we can get that displayed in the Community Theme Creator. Once it's in the folder, we can come right back into the Community Theme Creator and you'll see that now media folder has my theme folder listed. So we'll click that. And now the file name has my playtime image there, and I'll click that. And there it is, playtime. Looking good. If you scroll back up to the properties panel into this layout section, I've been moving the elements around and making it larger and smaller on the canvas, which is perfectly fine. But you also have the ability to do everything manually in the properties panel. X, Y positions if you're wanting to be a lot more accurate with that. The width and the height if you're wanting to be pinpoint. I need to have it 500 pixels tall or whatever you want. And then you have the angle, so you could change the angle here. I want it upside down or just sway it off to the side a little bit. With angle, you also have the angle arm here that you can move this image over angle, but then you have flip, horizontal, and vertical. So if you're wanting to maybe create a mirror image of the same image, so you'd like duplicate this playtime and then have sort of like its shadow or something cast on the side, you could do that. So you see flip horizontally, there it goes. Flip vertically, you can see that that's essentially what it does. And skew, you can have it skew either on the left, either on the x-axis or the y-axis, and you'll see what it does if I just do that. Just sort of skews the image to the side or the other side, and it'll do the same thing for the y-axis. Sort of like the left and right, you're just grabbing it and moving it up and down. Well, that covers this sort of static media image, but let's say we moved over to the metadata image. So if you click that, you'll see that the media section changes slightly. Now we have the same media metadata image drop down, and now this metadata image drop down will basically try to read a user's launch box media image types and say, what would we want to display here? Either I can display the game's box art, or I can display the background or the clear logo. And you'll see that there's a lot of different kinds of image types that you can choose to display here. In this case, let's go with the box front. I could go with the back of the box, but let's go with the front of the box. And there it is. There's the box. And now something to note is that this will read your particular image types that you've downloaded into Launchbox and display it here on the screen. You don't have to download any other images other than what you already have in your Launchbox library. So if you find that something doesn't display, you can just go and add it to your Launchbox, come back into the Community Theme Creator, and your box will show up, or your image will show up. But we also have two other things here. These are also the image version of the fallback. So in this case, if a game didn't have a particular box art, then we could say, okay, then look inside this folder and play the playtime PNG. So this would be useful. Let's say you had a generic, in this case, Nintendo Entertainment System box, and you're saying, I want something to fill this space no matter what. Then you can point to that generic default box, and no matter whether a user has an image or not, at least something will appear there. And then if you look closer at the metadata image dropdown, you might find that there's some property elements here that don't exactly correlate to an image type, like genre 1, 2, 3, and 4. You've got play mode, region. All these are text metadata elements. So why are they in the image section? Well, what you can actually do is you can tell the community theme creator to take whatever the genre is for a particular game. So in this case, let's say this game was Adventure Island 2. So that's like a platform genre game. And it'll take the word platform, and now you'll see this new image folder section drop down and say, look inside of a particular folder for the genre's name in an image file. So in this case, I would be looking for like platform.png or action.png. And so if you created a set of genre images, now again, I can click this media folder to enter my folder here. And let's say I created a folder, call it whatever you want. I'll just make it simple. I'll call it genres. I'll then go into it. And I do have a set of images here. Let's say, here it is. Here they are. I'm going to bring them over. Icons that I created for one of my themes in the past. And you can see they're all named action, adventure. Some of them are arcade specific, like ball paddle, beat 'em up, board games, that sort of thing. So now I'll just tell it, look inside of my genre folder for an image for this game. It found the platform one, and now it's good to go. You basically have an image that will, no matter which game, let's just go through some of these games here using this handy gamepad. Let's go down. Adventures in the Magic Kingdom is an action game, and it'll just keep looking for the genre name and look in this folder for that particular genre image. Finally, you'll notice that some metadata values in this dropdown are not just like a genre or a play mode, but let's say is favorite. If you chose favorite, like what kind of image, what should the image file be called inside of the image folder? Well, in this case, it's a true or false value. So it's actually going to look inside of a folder. Let's say you had a favorites folder. You can even put it in the genres folder or whatever if you want to consolidate. And it's actually going to look for a file called true.png and false.png. If the game is favorited, then it's going to display the true.png image. If the game is not favorited, it will try to find a false.png image and display it for the user. So it gives them some context on whether their game is favorited, if it's broken, if it's completed. There's a few of them like that in there that are all similar. Now that we've taken a look at the media static image and the media metadata image, I want to take a look at some of these extra options here at the bottom, and that includes the grayscale option and the use color tint option, and they can be used together or separately if you want. Let's change this back to the box image. So let's say the game box front, make it big. Let's say you wanted to control the color of your theme, and in this view it was very green, let's say, and you can take this color tint and turn it on, change it to some, let's change it to some like neon green. We'll change the alpha, so changing the opacity, let's say 20% green tint over this image, and it'll give it that sort of greenish hue over the image if you want. If you want even more control, you can turn on grayscale, and grayscale is separated between the different qualities of grayscale. You can have a very high quality, which makes it nice and smooth, just like the regular image. Or if you're wanting that gritty, noisy type image, then you can choose the very low, and that turns the image, gets rid of the color, and just gives that noise, that grittiness to any image that you throw at it, if you're wanting that. You can see here that the color tint will then take over, and it's all that color. Or you can not use the color tint and only just have the grayscale there. And that's the power of those two tools. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding of the text and the image elements. I know I didn't cover everything in this video, but hopefully that was the majority of the features that get you started and allow you to use them in your theme maybe a bit better. If you do end up creating a theme, I'd love to see it. Love to see you post over on the community forums. Always a good time to watch, to see those themes being developed. But until next time, we hope that you have a great day, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.